What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Arrow TV, the #1 place for building success, independence, and happiness in that paralegal career of yours. In today's video, I want to touch on the dreaded subject of so many paralegals out there and a huge subject that you learn on the job, and that is legal billing. Yes, we're going to talk about legal billing in this video. We're going to talk about timekeeping and billing for your time and what you should know as a paralegal in this industry. So if you're excited about today's video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and consider clicking that bell notification to receive a notification of each time I put a video on here. All right, without further ado, let's get into this. Timekeeping is a dreaded subject for so many paralegals because it is so tedious and takes so much of our time to do, which is sometimes counterproductive to the things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. Having said that, it's absolutely necessary for every single paralegal to learn. Unfortunately, a lot of us are learning it on the job and not as part of a curriculum in a paralegal certification. So let's talk about one of two huge things that you've got to have a clear understanding for when it comes to billing for your time. And that is the #1 thing, which is time is money. It doesn't matter if you're defendant or plaintiff. It doesn't matter if you're contingency or if you're billing by the hour. You really need to understand that at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line. It's about the numbers. It's about the exchange of your time for money and what the law firm is getting in return. So as long as you have a clear understanding of #1, we can get to #2, and that is billing is an art. Yes, it absolutely is an art form, and sometimes it can take years to master. When billing for your time, it is always important to start with the end in mind. Now, I say that throughout the course of this YouTube channel and in my paralegal coaching programs, but it's because it is true. We have to be analytical, and time is money, so we have to think about the end in mind when it comes to billing for our time. We really need to have a clear understanding of what the attorneys expect from us, what the client expects from us, what those billing guidelines are, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and more specifically, what platforms are being used to bill your time. Once you have an understanding of these things, then billing isn't just an art, it's a skill. So let's talk first about understanding the billing structure of most law firms. You've usually got one of 4 scenarios happening. So let's talk about the first one, and that is contingency fee. The bottom line is the contingency fee comes in at the end of the case. That is because it is all contingent upon the law firm winning the case. So let's move on to the second, which is billing by the hour. You'll see a lot of defense firms, a lot of defense paralegals billing by the hour. We're going to talk a little bit more about billing by the hour because that's truly where the skill and art comes into play. Billing by the hour is the true definition of an exchange of time for money. For every single service that the law firm performs, the attorneys and the paralegals, they are keeping track of that time, and it is being billed by the hour. We're going to talk about billing for your time here in a minute, but let's move on to the third billing option, which is flat fee and project-based. Flat fee or project-based is a single fee that is fixed, and it is agreed upon in the beginning of the project or the assignment. Now, attorneys can choose to take a percentage of that up front and take the rest at the end of the project or the assignment, or they can ask for the entire thing up front, but it is a fixed amount that is paid to the law firm for a very specific purpose, for a project, for a claim, and it isn't billed by the hour, and it isn't contingent upon recovery from the case. The last item is pro bono. That's the fourth option here. And pro bono means that you are exchanging your time, but it's not for any money. So pro bono work is professional work that is undertaken without the exchange for money. You could be appointed to the case and be working on the case, or perhaps it's a pro bono case that your firm has taken on because they are required to have so many hours of pro bono work per year. So there you have it. You have contingency fee, you have billable hour, you have flat fee project-based, and you have pro bono. Those are usually the 4 structures that you're going to see in any law firm billing for their time. So let's move on to understanding the billing style in which you need to bill for your time. So there's one of 2 ways to bill for your time. It's either going to be in block style or it's going to be task-based. So let me tell you what I mean by that. When you are keeping track of your time, and perhaps you are doing work in the Smith case, for every item that you work on for that case in a single day is billed in a single time entry separated by semicolons. As an example, you could say you received and reviewed defendant's discovery responses, semicolon, prepared a memo regarding the deficiencies for the discovery responses, semicolon, prepare a document production index of the documents produced by defendant, period. Task-based billing is single entry billing that is often accompanied by codes. Now, those codes are called task-based billing management system codes. These are often referred to as UTMBS codes. Because these are task-based billing codes, you cannot perform multiple services and put it in a single time entry. So as an example of this, you could say, receive and review plaintiff's discovery responses. As a result of that, you would have an L code and an A code. You would have L310 and A104 accompanied with that specific task that you performed. For more information on these codes, you can visit the description below where I reference the ABA litigation code set. Head over to the hyperlink that I've provided you and post it up somewhere near your desk so that you have a clear understanding of those codes and you have a quick reference to them whenever you need them. Now, moving on to billing for your time. Billing for the most part in most firms is done by measuring it in tenths of a time. So each time we perform a task, we're going to reference a specific time frame that it took us to perform that task. If a single task takes you anywhere from 1 to 6 minutes, then you're going to bill 0.1 for that task that you performed. If it took you 7 to 12 minutes, you would bill 0.2 for that task that you performed. If you billed 13 to 18 minutes, then it would be 0.3 for that time. So you get what I'm saying, and I will link in the description box below a download for you guys for you to print and have as a reference right there at your desk, along with those UTMBS codes, for just ease of use and efficiency. So when billing for your time in increments like this, let's talk about strategies when billing for your time, because you really have to understand the psychology of billing by the hour and understand where the bill is going, who's seeing that bill or what is seeing that bill. It's very possible a computer could be the first thing that reviews your bills. And oftentimes when you're using those task-based billing codes, it is a computer that's reviewing your time the first time around. So having said that, keep the 0.0s and the 0.5s to a bare minimum. By keeping the 0.0s and the 0.5s to a bare minimum, you are telling the computer or the person that is reviewing your time that you're not rounding up or rounding down. You're being more specific in your time. There's just something really psychological about a computer or a person reviewing loads of time on a monthly billing statement that is a bunch of 0.0s and 0.5s. So if you can, stay away from that. However, when in doubt, always round your time down. Do not round your time up. If you're rounding your time up, you're likely to round your time to a 0.0 or 0.5, and it's gonna be probably taken off the bill or discounted anyway. So when in doubt, please just round down. But the third item to keep in mind when it comes to the strategy of billing for your time is, again, to start with the end in mind. You need to understand the billing guidelines. You need to understand who is reviewing your bill or what is reviewing your bill. And you need to understand the billing platform being used to bill for your time. Oftentimes, if the billing platform is computer-based, then the first thing reviewing your bill is a computer. It's not a person. So keep these strategies in mind when billing for those increments of time. So let's talk about a few strategies in making sure that your time actually gets billed. We're going to talk about that a little bit further. But first things first, when billing for your time, be descriptive. Be clear and concise, but be descriptive in what you are doing. Don't make homework for the person who is looking at your bill. So here's an example of being descriptive. You can say, prepare motion to compel. And the person reviewing that bill will have to figure out what sort of motion to compel you are preparing. Or you can be a little bit more descriptive about what it is you're preparing. You're preparing a motion to compel plaintiff's answers to defendant's interrogatories and requests for production of documents. You haven't just told the person who is reviewing your bill that you prepared a motion to compel. That's way too vague. You need to be more descriptive than that and say what sort of motion to compel you are preparing. Because frankly, a case can have dozens, hopefully not, but could have dozens motions to compel depending on the amount of time it is being litigated. So be more descriptive than that and give your motion to compel a little bit more, saying what it is for. Having said that, use strong verbs in your description of time. And you might have to get a little creative when you're thinking about those verbs, but here's an example. You can say, talk with opposing counsel regarding discovery status. Or you can say telephone conference with opposing counsel regarding plaintiff's outstanding responses to defendant's written discovery. You are using strong action verbs, you are being descriptive in your time, and your time is less likely to be cut as a result of it. Another thing to keep in mind is to be careful with your verbiage. Words matter, and never before have words mattered so much when it comes to billing your time. So keep these three things in mind. Stay away from abbreviations. Nobody really understands those abbreviations but your firm, and if a computer reads those abbreviations first, it could discount your time because it doesn't understand what you're trying to tell it. So do not use those abbreviations unless somebody specifically tells you that you can do so. If you're using any abbreviations, it might be for a person's name, M. Smith or MS. But if you can, keep from using any abbreviations. Don't abbreviate for defendant, spell out defendant. The next thing is to be careful of your clerical words. Stay away from words like file and anything having to do with intra-office, or frankly, anything that can be misconstrued as a clerical task. Now, yes, I understand that us paralegals often do things that are considered clerical tasks. However, that's where those strong action verbs come into play. That's where that art and creativeness and skill come into play. If you are doing something that is clerical, and I don't mean to be disingenuous by this, but if you're doing something that is clerical, figure out a way to creatively reword the service that you performed so it can't be misconstrued as a clerical task. The next thing is to be mindful of your pronouns. We are in a day and age where you really need to be mindful of those pronouns. And more specifically, more than ever, your words matter. So be careful with those pronouns, be careful with that clerical task verbiage, and be sure to never use abbreviations when you can keep from doing it. Now, when it comes to tracking your time, you really have to find a system that works for you. However the system, get the system going, because having no plan is a plan for failure. So think about how you want to track your time and what is the path of least resistance for you. Is it using some sort of spreadsheet, if that is Word or Excel or wherever you want to put it? Or are you going to go cloud-based so you can have those items outside of the office? You can use Microsoft Planner, you can use Asana, you can use Trello. There are lots of those out there, but whatever the system is, find the system that works for you. You do have to track your time. You have to track it always, especially in a defense environment. You're probably under some sort of a quota. We'll talk about that more here in a minute, but figure out a system for tracking your time that works best for you. So when it comes to tracking your time, you also need to be tracking the effectiveness of your time. So here's what I mean by that. You need to track the time that you entered into your firm's billing system or that you gave to the person who is billing for your time. You need to track all that time yourself. Don't just hand it off to someone and it's out of sight, out of mind. The next item is to track the time billed. So just because you have entered that time into software or you've handed off your time to be entered into that billing software, you really need to be tracking the time that is billed, because first cuts for all of your time come from within. They come from the partners who are reviewing your time before it is sent off to the client. So be sure to track that time that was actually billed to the client. The third item in this trifecta here is to track the time that was paid. Just because it was billed doesn't mean that it was paid. First cuts are from within. The next cuts are either from a computer or from a person. Sometimes it's both, especially if you're entering that time with L codes and A codes into some sort of billing software that is third-party based. You have to understand the end in mind. Understand who is looking at your time so that you can understand how to bill for your time. Oftentimes, when your time is cut first, straight from the firm and not handed off to the client, it is because a partner has deemed your time either clerical, redundant of somebody else's time, or it was unnecessary, or they just don't understand what it was that you did and they don't see how they can bill for that time, and perhaps they don't want to track you down and ask for it. They don't want to ask for clarification. It's no longer in draft form. Whatever the reason, this is how you track the effectiveness of your billing. You have to track the time that is given, track the time that is billed, and track the time that is paid. Only then will you really be able to hone in on those effective time and billing skills. So when you're effectively keeping track of your time, you're effectively billing for your time, then you are ruling the day and you are not allowing the day to rule you. And at the end of the day, that's what we need. We need to be able to manage our time and perhaps bill our time. And while billing your time is often a necessary evil in this crazy legal industry, that's just it. It's necessary. We have to be able to constructively bill for our time. We need to be able to effectively transition what we did as service, put it into words, bill for our time, the law firm gets paid, and everybody wins. At the end of the day, it's about the bottom line, the exchange for your time and the money that the firm receives as a result of it. Thank you so much for joining me today in this video where we talked about the necessary evil of tracking and billing for your time as a paralegal. If you like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up because it absolutely helps to support my channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, and consider clicking that bell notification to receive a notification of each time I put a video on here. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Good luck to you and all that you do, because this crazy legal industry needs an amazing paralegal just like you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a weekend ahead of you, and I'll see you guys back here on the next one. Bye, guys.